Hey horror fans, once again it's the Horror Miser Money G, and today we'll talk about last night's episode of The Walking Dead. Now, we start off with a very weird opening. We have Negan. Yes, Negan is back in this episode, and he has most of his lieutenants there. We see Eugene, Simon, Dwight, Regina, and some other guy that I don't know his name of, and they're all actually talking to Gregory. Saying like Gregory has went on ahead and snitched out Rick's plan to go on ahead and attack the Saviors. We don't. Then again, I don't know why this scene is here. We know how this scene plays out. I guess the only reason why they did it was because, hey, look, we gotta give these actors screen time. We gotta pay them, so let's have this scene where we have only meeting him meeting his lieutenants prior to Rick coming in there. But we know how that plays out. We get to see at least one of the informations that we get that Rick wanted the widow, Rick and King Asshole, which is King Ezekiel, alive so he can kill them in front of everybody to reassert his control over the group. And eventually we do get to the part where Father Gabriel and Negan are stuck in the trailer where a bunch of walkers are holed up. And that's how the show begins. Kind of weird. Most of this episode, we get to see a nice interplay between Father Gabriel and Negan. Father Gabriel said the reason why I might be here is because you might want to confess to me. Negan says he really doesn't have anything to confess. Yes, he might have killed Abraham and Glenn, but he didn't get them killed. And the reason why he believes that he has hold over the many wives and the workers there is because I'm not here to kill people. I'm here to save them. Hence, that's why we're called the Saviors. So that was a nice interplay between those two. We also get, another interesting interplay between Rick and Daryl. After the guy that they killed to get the guns, he before he dies, he tells Rick and Daryl that all the people in the kingdom are dead except for the king, the Axeman, and that gray-haired woman, which he was talking about, Carl. They're the only ones that lived, meaning that everyone from the kingdom has died. Well, unfortunately, that's true. This causes Rick and Daryl to argue when they decide whether or not they want to use them. Rick says that, hey, look, even though, yes, we want to kill Negan, but we can't just kill everybody. What about the families that's there? But Daryl doesn't care. He wants to kill them all. Savior, the only good savior is a dead savior. I suppose that's what Daryl wants to do. It causes him and Daryl to fight for a little bit until actually the thing explodes and it destroys all the weapons. And that ends that little fight that they had with each other. Meanwhile, they decide to go to the other plan. While Dara goes to the other plan, Rick say he walks on foot, and while he's walking, he sees an elevator up in the sky. He eventually sees a scout, and we find out that he's going to Jadis and her scavengers as his next plan, which is pretty interesting to see that after they were the one that turned on him, we're going to see if he can actually convince them to go back to their favor and go against Negan. We get some more interesting interplay between Daryl and Negan. Eventually, Father Gabriel, after he unsuccessfully attempts to kill Negan, and he confesses to his sins as he tells them that he allowed his 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 congregation. That's what he said. He allowed his congregation to die while he sat Carly up and watched them get eaten by the walkers. Negan tells him he still doesn't have anything to confess, but then eventually he does confess about his wife. Now, for people who read the comics, we know that in the comics they do go into Negan's backstory. It's called Here's Negan, and it basically talks about Negan's life prior to the apocalypse. I won't spoil that there, but I'm pretty sure people who have read it know that Negan did have a wife whose name was Lucille, which is the baddest name under, and that's where that story comes in. Now, I don't know if they're going to do the same thing here, but we do see little spigots of that backstory here in the show. Now, of course, I don't know if they're going to do the same thing here as they do in the comic books, but right now they prefer to keep Negan's backstory as a mystery, mainly because of the popularity that he has become thanks to the performance Jeffrey Dean Morgan has given Negan, and I do admit that he is probably one of the best things I do enjoy about The Walking Dead is his performance and how he portrays Negan. And Negan does talk about his wife and how she was sick, and at the time he cheated on her. And fortunately, by the time they took her to the hospital, that's when the outbreak took place, and he didn't have the guts enough to kill her. It was said that when he was weak, at his weakest moments when he should have killed her, he didn't, and someone else had to. Meanwhile, at the sanctuary, things are not going well. With the walkers having come into the site, they can't go out and get supplies, so they have to ration out the place. So they cut the power off they cut the power, which unfortunately cuts off the air conditioning. Everyone's sweating up a storm. Plus, they also having a short supply on food and water. Doesn't make the workers very happy. We see a meeting with the lieutenants who think that Negan is dead, and they come up with some very bad ideas, which Eugene says is not very good about that particular plan about sacrificing the walkers. It eventually comes to almost a head where the workers start to rebel, until all of a sudden we hear Negan's eerie whistle, and he and Gabriel are coming back into the sanctuary, all covered in walker goop. It appears that Gabriel and Negan worked together. They actually killed the walker, cut up his entrails, covered themselves in goop. We know the walker guts thing, which we've seen play before. It's the first time we see Negan and everything else do it. It allowed them to walk through the horror undetected for a while before the walkers start to notice that they're not one of them, and they actually made it out alive. And Negan gives one speech, and he tells Gabriel, "This is the reason why I'm here and what I do, is because without it, there'll be nothing but chaos. And that's why I have to hold what I do, because I'm saving these people." And that's basically how the episode ends. Now, again, I don't understand the beginning of the episode. I don't think it was kind of wasted material right there. We all knew what was happening. We all know that Negan wants Rick, Maggie, and King Ezekiel held alive, so that way he can execute them in front of everybody to break everyone's spirits. So that I don't know that it was necessary for them to show that, but I guess because, as I stated before, hey, look, those are actors. They have to have their screen time, so let's make a little screen time for them. Let's have this flashback scene. Oh, excuse me. The only interesting thing is that whether or not Eugene will give up Daryl as the one that's betrayed them, as we all know that, not Daryl, Dwight is the one that he's betrayed them, because he's the one that told Rick and everyone else about how to attack the outposts. So we don't know whether or not Eugene will give them up. We do see at the end of the day that the reason why Father Gabriel is there is because he needs to bring Dr. Hitz back, because he's Maggie's doctor, back from the sanctuary over to the hilltop. That's one of the interesting scenes that I liked about it. And like I said, I like the interplay between Father Gabriel and Negan. We get to see some of Negan's backstory, and I said it again, we don't know if the show will take the same approach as what we saw in the comics with Here's Negan. Whether or not they'll use the same backstory or not, we'll know for sure later on. Or they'll just keep his backstory a mystery. Because, as they say, it's always better to have no motive when dealing with characters like Negan. Reminds me of the movie The Strangers. During the last final scenes when Liv Tyler's character asked the strangers why were they attacking him, and the pinup girl said, "Because you were home." And that was very eerie. And I really think that was a very effective line, because they don't give them any reason. And perhaps that's the best, that we don't have motive. That makes everything more scarier, more crazier. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people liked Halloween, because Michael Myers didn't have any motive why he killed his sister or why was he going after Laurie. It's more scarier that way. So hence, maybe that's the reason why we're seeing no mystery. We're seeing a lot more mystery of Negan's character here. But I'm pretty sure they will probably give him a backstory. Just don't know if and when that will happen. So, my horror fans, what do you think about last night's episode of The Walking Dead? Did you like the interplay between Father Gabriel and Negan? Did you like the fight between Daryl and Rick? And do you think Rick is right? Should they not kill should they spare some of the saviors? Or do you like Daryl and says, hey, what? Look, I don't care. The only good savior is a dead savior. Leave your comments down in the comment section and let me know what you thought about last night's episode of The Walking Dead. Well, that's my video for today. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share. And if this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. That way you can become part of the horror experience with me, the Horror Miser Monty G. And as always, all my social media links will be down in the description box below as well. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'm also part of a group on Facebook called Killer Flicks, where we talk about horror all day long. And on Fridays is Free for All Fridays, where we'll basically talk about anything. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember, horror rules.